Think Again by Adam Grant. In August 1949, a devastating forest fire broke out in Montana. On an unusually hot afternoon, a group of smoke jumpers parachuted near the top of Mann Gulch. Their plan was to dig a firebreak in the ground to control the spread of the fire, directing it to an area with fewer combustible materials. Soon, the leader, Wagner Dodge, realized that the fire had already crossed the gulch and was advancing towards them. Flames up to 30 feet high were shooting into the air, spreading at a speed that could cover 2 football fields in a minute. He realized that they couldn't even control the fire. At this point, the mission had to shift from firefighting to an escape. So, Dodge immediately led the team in the opposite direction, running towards the hilltop. The firefighters sprinted at full speed up the steep slope, covering about 500 yards in the next 8 minutes, with less than 200 yards remaining to the top. Safety was within reach, but the fire was spreading too fast for everyone to make it to the hilltop in time. Dodge's next action puzzled his team. He stopped, took out a box of matches, and began lighting them one by one, throwing them onto the grass. None of the team members understood what he was doing. Despite Dodge urgently calling out to his teammates, "Come over here quickly," no one had enough time to grasp his intention or act accordingly. In fact, Dodge had already devised a survival strategy at that moment. He planned to burn the grass ahead, effectively removing the fuel for the approaching wildfire. Then, he poured water from his canteen onto a handkerchief, covered his mouth and nose with it, lay face down in the burned area, and stayed there for 15 minutes. As the raging fire passed over him, he survived by breathing the oxygen close to the ground. Tragically, out of the 15 firefighters in the team, 12 perished in the fire. The other 2 survivors, apart from Dodge, managed to outrun the fire to the top of the gulch due to their physical fitness. However, Dodge's survival was attributed to his healthy mind. What constitutes a healthy mind? Most people think of a high IQ, believing that the smarter a person is, the better and faster they can solve problems. However, in a rapidly changing world, the ability to think smartly and the ability to rethink are equally as important. This means that when unpredictable events occur, we need to not only think but also learn to forget what we previously learned and gain the ability to rethink. In the story above, Dodge's survival was due to his quick rethinking ability. The 12 firefighters who didn't draw inspiration from Dodge's actions paid with their lives because they couldn't rethink their decisions in time. As a firefighter, your first instinct is to put out the fire, not to start another one. When escaping, your first instinct is to run away from the fire, not towards it. Usually, these instinctive reactions can save your life. However, in many critical moments, it is the ability to go beyond instinctive reactions and rethink judgments that can help you overcome difficulties. In a sense, those who do not understand rethinking are conservative in terms of their mindset. So how can one break through the confines of thinking and learn to rethink? There are 3 effective methods. You may not know Mike Lazaridis, but that's okay. Let's start with a short story. Mike is recognized as a scientific genius. His first scientific achievement was inventing a device that could read barcodes on movie film. He patented this device, which later became widely used in Hollywood, earning him an Emmy and an Academy Award for technical achievement. However, this accomplishment pales in comparison to his next major invention. Mike's second invention was the key to making his company the fastest-growing company in the world. This major invention was the BlackBerry phone. Yes, Mike Lazaridis was the inventor of the once globally popular BlackBerry. By the summer of 2009, BlackBerry phones held nearly half of the U.S. smartphone market share. This flagship product quickly attracted a devoted following, with loyal users such as Bill Gates and Christina Aguilera. However, things soon took a turn. By 2014, its market share had plummeted to less than 1%. What happened? In 2007, Steve Jobs introduced the first-generation iPhone, which eliminated the physical keyboard in favor of a fully touch-sensitive screen. However, Mike dismissed this, believing that not everyone could type on glass. As the internet and mobile phones continued to evolve, Apple and Android both launched open app stores. Yet, Mike remained convinced that these weren't necessary features. He also abandoned the development of instant messaging services. In just 5 years, he had lost a market of billions of users, being replaced by newer companies. Why was Mike Lazaridis unwilling to rethink? For him, the identity symbolized by the BlackBerry phone was not to be threatened or questioned. Most of us take pride in our knowledge and expertise, holding firmly to our beliefs and perspectives. We instinctively refer to and replicate past successes. However, doing so in the face of a rapidly changing external environment is very dangerous. No advantage or asset can remain invincible forever. You must separate your past self from your present self, dare to make mistakes, accept the unknown, rethink issues with an open mind, and continually iterate and upgrade yourself. At this point, mistakes often lead to growth. At the same time, you should separate your opinions from your identity, defining your identity by your values rather than seeking self-affirmation through your opinions, as values are less likely to change. From the story above, the author's first conclusion is that to gain the ability to rethink, you must first learn to let go of old identity associations and separate past opinions from present realities. Now let's look at the second method for gaining the ability to rethink: imposter syndrome. This term refers to a tendency for self-denial and self-doubt, describing people who, despite being highly capable and accomplished, still feel unworthy and lack necessary confidence. One day in December 2015, Hala Thomasdottir unexpectedly received a phone call about a petition on Facebook urging her to run for president of Iceland. Hala Thomasdottir is a successful leader who helped establish a university and co-founded an investment company in 2007. When the global financial crisis hit in 2008, Iceland was severely affected with its 3 major commercial banks defaulting and its currency collapsing. Due to its small economic size, Iceland experienced one of the most severe financial crises in human history. Hala Thomasdottir demonstrated her leadership by successfully guiding her company through these challenging times. Despite her outstanding achievements, she felt she lacked political experience and had never held a position in government or the public sector. Therefore, she did not believe she was prepared to run for president. In stark contrast was another presidential candidate, Dag Oddsson, who was described by an economist at the time as the man who needs to take responsibility for Iceland's bankruptcy. From 1991 to 2004, Dag Oddsson served as the Prime Minister of Iceland, where he advocated for bank privatization, which heightened banking risks. From 2005 to 2009, he served as the Governor of the Central Bank of Iceland, overseeing the expansion of the bank's balance sheets to more than 10 times Iceland's GDP. When protests against his mismanagement arose, Oddsson refused to resign, eventually being forced out by Parliament. Time magazine identified him as one of the 25 people to blame for the global financial crisis. Despite these controversies, in 2016, Oddsson announced his candidacy for the Icelandic presidency, stating, "I have considerable experience and knowledge to fulfill the role of president." This starkly contrasts with Hala Thomasdottir, who despite her notable achievements, initially lacked confidence and doubted her readiness to enter politics. In the end, Hala Thomasdottir emerged victorious in the election, becoming the president of Iceland. Hala Thomasdottir reflected later on that the imposter syndrome was the psychological drive that supported her through to the end of her campaign. During her candidacy, she gained a deeper understanding of self-doubt. Previously, she believed that self-doubt weakened her strengths, but now she sees it as a sign to improve tools and methods rather than questioning her abilities. While other candidates relied on traditional media coverage like television, Hala's uncertainty about these tools prompted her to rethink on how to run a campaign effectively. She shifted her focus to social media, actively engaging with messages and conducting live interactions on Facebook, which set her apart. This experience illustrates that self-doubt and self-questioning can sometimes be catalysts for rethinking strategies, allowing us to find a balance between overconfidence and excessive humility. Let's take a look at the third way to develop the ability to rethink. Being unconventional and critical is a crucial pathway to triggering reevaluation. Sometimes, conformity and silence from the majority can hinder reconsideration. In other words, without conflict, there can be little impetus for active rethinking. When conflicts are managed effectively, behaviors of reevaluation can be sparked positively and effectively. Pixar once used computer technology to launch their first animated feature film, Toy Story, which became a blockbuster and the highest-grossing film of the year in the United States. Eager to make bolder attempts, they invited director Brad Bird to lead this transformation. However, when Bird presented his ambitious vision, Pixar's technical leaders believed his goals were fundamentally unachievable. Brad didn't give up. He sought out the most unconventional people at Pixar, those who were generally unfriendly, cynical, and often dissatisfied. Organizing them for his project, Brad reminded them that no one believed they could accomplish it. This reminder proved immensely effective. Just 4 years later, they not only successfully released Pixar's most complex film, The Incredibles, but also managed to significantly lower production costs per minute. The film grossed over $631 million worldwide and won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. This unconventional working relationship, challenging interpersonal dynamics, and constant questioning of their own knowledge and methods were key factors in their ultimate success. It can be said that creativity is often sparked when people feel accepted and supported. Many times, those who don't fit the corporate culture are the ones most likely to bring additional value to the company. We can learn more from people who question our thought processes than from those who affirm them. These individuals are often the best critics. Their criticism aims to enhance performance rather than to satisfy their own ego. They don't criticize out of insecurity, they do so because they care, and arguing is not seen as impolite to them. In contrast, in typical groups, conformity and silence aim to seek social harmony rather than cognitive consensus. Silence often signifies disregard for the value of everyone's opinions, indicating disrespect and hindering the development of the ability to courageously voice dissenting views. Undoubtedly, creating an environment that fosters questioning, critical thinking, and continually sparks creativity is another effective way to cultivate the ability to rethink. In people's daily lives, when plans don't proceed as expected, our initial reaction typically isn't to rethink the plan but rather to double down, investing more resources into it. This approach helps us rationalize things, continually using past validated beliefs to seek self-justification, soothe ourselves, and protect our self-image, thereby proving ourselves right. This approach works in a stable world where we often receive rewards for sticking to our beliefs. However, today we live in a rapidly changing world where both thinking and rethinking are equally as important and deserving of almost equal time. Rethinking isn't complicated, it's not a burden. We don't have to be constrained by old images of where we want to go or who we want to be. The simplest way to rethink our choices is to reflect on what we do every day. Certainly, reconsidering our past commitments requires humility. Reflecting on our current decisions demands skepticism, and imagining our future plans requires curiosity. But this process can liberate us from familiar environments and past constraints, helping us become better versions of ourselves. Congratulations on finishing another book. Keep going.